Leora, it's common sense for a daughter-in-law to take care of her parents-in-law, right? I'm going to let my parents live with us next week, and you will take care of them. If you disobey, I'll kick you out. When my husband Neil bought a new 5-take house, my relatives gathered to celebrate. At that table, my husband called me and spat at me. I replied to such a husband as follows: I'm not going to live with you. By the way, I've asked someone else for that, so don't worry. Huh? Did you ask another person to take care of them? Who do you mean? What are you doing without my permission? My husband was clearly annoyed by my unusual attitude and yelled loudly. He is the one who is doing what he wants without asking me. Buying a new house and living with my parents-in-law came to my knowledge after they happened. Then I'll report back after the fact. I've been preparing for this day for a very long time. Hey, what's wrong with you guys? Raising your voice like that? Everyone can hear you. Wow, Leora, glaring at Neil with such a scary face, it's not good. You're my daughter-in-law, so please listen to what he says. Nothing-law who adores her son, take his side without asking me why. I was stunned by the expected behavior. On the other hand, my father-in-law, who has common sense, calmly said this as looking at me and my husband alternately. What's wrong? Everybody's worried. She told me she didn't want to live with you and Dad. She said she never want to take care of you once you get older. What the hell? How dare you say something so heartless? You seemed to be a decent person at first, but now your true color started to show off. What a disgusting person. It's your job as a daughter-in-law to take care of your husband's parents. You are not getting it? Calm down a bit. Let's hear what Leora has to say. I don't think Leora would say something like that all of a sudden. Leora, what happened? I'm sorry, father-in-law and mother-in-law. Neil and I are divorced, so I'm not his wife anymore. What? Hearing my words, not only my parents-in-law, but also my husband is surprised. The atmosphere froze for a moment, but soon her husband opened his mouth. What are you talking about? When did you get a divorce? Don't be ridiculous. Leora, are you dumb when you already has a trashy personality? You can't get a divorce unless you submit proper documents. You're stupid. Shut up for a moment, both of you. Leora, please explain. I'm at the limit of my patience. For about a year now, I've been harassed by Neil. Neil's attitude, which had been kind until then, suddenly changed. He would yell at me whenever he didn't like something. At the end, he always threatens me with divorce papers, saying, "We're getting a divorce." Neil works for a big company, and I'm a housewife. So he looked down on me, saying, "You're just a housewife and you can't do anything." Nobody knows his true color because he shows only a good side of him in front of his parents and relatives. Today I'm going to reveal it in front of everyone. I just filled out the divorce papers that Neil had prepared to threaten me and handed them in yesterday. Neil's part was already filled out, so all I had to do was to fill out my part. It was successfully accepted and our divorce was finalized, so I am no longer his wife. What the hell? Those divorce papers were just a joke. Who the hell would really uses it? I just used it as a bit of a threat when you didn't listen to me. My father-in-law questioned my husband, who was upset and making excuses. You used divorce papers to threaten her. Did you do that to Leora? Neil, what's going on? Leora is a housewife, so she's kind of naive. She never gets over what I point out, and she tends to exaggerate everything. Oh yes, and Neil has always been kind since he was a kid, so he doesn't bully any on her. And wasn't there something wrong with Leora too, because she has a bad personality and a bad head? That's enough. I've been watching Leora since you got married, and she's a kind woman with common sense. I think she must have been through a lot to file divorce papers. I almost teared up hearing his words, who was trying to understand me. Compared to that, I can't stand my mother-in-law's attitude. My husband told me before that he had never been scolded by his mother since childhood. His mother was always on his side. Raised by her, my husband's personality is messed up. Thank you, father-in-law. Actually, I have something I want to show you. I took out the laptop I had prepared. It was to show the video to everyone in the room, to show hell to my husband and mother-in-law. The screen shows her husband chilling on the sofa in the living room with beer. Hey, this beer is not cold. I always tell you to keep them chill. You can't do anything. Don't you want a divorce? Well, if I divorce you, you won't be able to survive. You're just a housewife who can't do anything. If you don't want to get divorced, bring me a snack. Make it quick. I'm sorry, I have a cold and feel really sick. I also feel feverish. I'm sorry, but can you prepare your own snacks? I want to get some rest now. Huh? Cold? Fever? What the hell are you talking about? There's no way a housewife who stays at home doing nothing can catch a cold. I'm an elite, and I'm tired of working hard. Are you going to let me stand in the kitchen? My husband's face, which was looking at the computer screen, turned red with anger. He must be upset as the mask of good husband and good son has come off. Why are you filming me in the house without asking me? Don't do anything like that. That's right. Who would set up a camera in the house? It's sneaky. It's too much. I wouldn't do this for no reason. Neil is so good on the outside that I don't think people will believe me if I don't have proof. Well, I was skeptical until I saw this video. I had no idea how bad his harassment to you was. What? Stop being so dramatic. It was a common thing in the past. Discipline is a key earlier in the marriage for a dumb daughter-in-law. Lyra is a dumb person with a bad personality. It can't be helped. That's right, it's to discipline her. I am doing it out of kindness. I decided to play the audio data on my laptop and confront him with the next evidence. I want to stay with you until morning. You're adorable. We'll be able to stay until morning every day once we get married. When are we getting married? Stop teasing me. I can't wait to be with you. Don't be so impatient. I can't do it right now. I'm busy with work. Just wait a little longer. I can't wait. I love you, Neil. I love you, Flavia. I stopped playing there. What's this? Setting up a hidden camera did not satisfy you. You are just like a criminal, Leora. You've got a bad personality with a bad brain. Your upbringing is also bad. What my husband and mother-in-law are saying is a mess. They don't admit their guilt and are trying to make me a bad guy. I calmly explained to them. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. But when I was cleaning inside the car that Neil told me to do, I found a HOT receipt in the side pocket. It was a receipt I didn't recognize, so I looked it up, and it was a Love hotel nearby. That was the first time I suspected Neil of cheating. Then a lot of other evidence came out. I found a long hair that wasn't mine, the smell of sweet perfume in the car. That's why I set up a bugging device to get clear evidence. Love hotel. What are you talking about? I don't know anything. I'm an elite and I'm busy with work, so I don't have time to cheat. Aren't you mistaking it for someone else? Neil is a common name. That's right, you're a daughter-in-law, so you just have to believe what your husband says and follow him. Stop spying on him or eavesdropping. You're a really stupid daughter-in-law. Stop kidding yourself. My father-in-law, who was silently listening to the words of them, was furious. His face was red with anger. It was the first time I saw him being furious like that, who usually keeps a meek smile. Me, my husband, and even my mother-in-law were speechless with surprise. How stupid are you? Neil was harassing Leora and even cheating on her. There's hard evidence for this. There's no way to get away with it. And yet you refuse to admit it and are trying to hurt Lyra even more. Neil, first of all, you have to admit what you did and apologize to Leora. Being overwhelmed by his father's anger, my husband was shrugging his head. It was my bad. I won't do it anymore. My husband apologized in a small voice with no emotion at all, clearly just lip service. He is a guy with full of ego and never admits his fault. And you stop spoiling him once and for all. Because you pampered him too much, Neil has grown up to be such a terrible person. Ever since he was a kid, you never scolded him for anything. You've become a selfish adult with a lot of ego. You should apologize to Leora. It was my bad. My husband is disgusting, but this mother is also terrible. No matter how you look at it, it is not the face of a person who is remorseful. Thank you, father-in-law, for me. But their apologies are words without sincere emotions, and I can't accept that. Hey, what are you talking about, Leora? I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. The mother-in-law lowered her head slightly. You've been lonely all the time when I was all about work, right? I'm going to love you from now on. Come on, fix your mood. I can't believe those words. Loving me, fixing my mood. Don't make fun of me. Come on, mother-in-law, it's your turn. It was you who introduced Flavia to Neil, right? You didn't approve of me as Neil's marriage partner. You were trying to get me to divorce him and make him marry someone more deserving, right? And Neil was told by you to get on board with this plan, right? What are you talking about? There's no way I'm going to do that. Yes, did you think such a stupid thing? Are you going to deceive me? You two really don't know when to admit your fault and apologize. Can you still say that when you hear this? I played another voice data. It's from when I got the testimony from Flavia. I was introduced to Neil by his mother. When I met him, he was kind, attentive, and reliable, and I immediately fell in love with him. We were attracted to each other, and every time we saw each other, Neil told me he loved me and that he wanted to marry me. I was really going to get married to him. I didn't know he was married. I really loved Neil. I was deceived. We could hear Flavia crying so hard. No matter how many times you hear it, it's a terrible story. The mother-in-law who made such a plan is terrible, but my husband who did not oppose it and followed the plan was even worse. Actually, I was already in contact with Flavia. When I heard about this from her, I decided to get a divorce. That's what it was. As my husband murmured, my father-in-law sighed heavily. My dear, I'm disappointed. I can't believe I have been living with such a person as a married couple for so many years. We get a divorce. I don't want to see your face again. What? Wait a minute, what do you mean by divorce? It's between Neil and Leora. It's none of our business, so we're not going to get divorced. Of course it is our business. Isn't it all your fault that you let your own son to have an affair in order to get rid of your son's wife? You're the worst. We'll tell our relatives about the divorce right now, so that we cannot go back. I'm sorry, dear. I did it for Neil's sake. Forgive me. I'm begging you. The mother-in-law sat on the ground with her head on the floor. However, my father-in-law's expression remained stiff. You still don't understand? Everything you've done for Neil has ruined him. Leora, you should reconsider too. I just got carried away by her words. Please, I'm begging you. He sat next to my mother-in-law on the ground. But of course I can't forgive them like that. My time when I was harassed and sickened won't come back. Neil is trying to blame his mother, but he is the one who decided to betray me and have an affair with Flavia. You don't have any remorse at all. Do you mean the affair was because of your mom? I'll report this to your workplace. If they find out that you're a guy who cheats on his wife and lies that you're single, your career path will be closed. And since the divorce is caused by your harassment and infidelity, I will get alimony. Please don't. If you report it to my workplace, my career will be over. You deserve because that's what you've done. I can't even pay alimony. I have a loan on this house. Hey, please forgive me. I can't. Do you think you'll be forgiven for apologizing now? The alimony will be paid through a lawyer, so be prepared. Ignoring the two of them sitting on the ground, my father-in-law and I went to our relatives. After that, my father-in-law divorced my mother-in-law as declared. On that day, the relatives learned everything and cut off their relationship with them out of disappointment, disgust. My father-in-law and I reported to this my husband's workplace. My husband, who used to work on the front lines, is now managing the warehouse. I have heard that salaries have also been drastically reduced. He has no place there and is isolated, and his mental health is a mess. Still, with the loan for a new 5DP house and the payment of alimony to me, He won't be able to stop working. Now my husband and mother-in-law live in a new 5-old building. Even though it's a new building, they blame each other, fight all the time, and the atmosphere in the house seems to be the worst. Even people in the outside can hear the sound of things thrown and yelling, and there are complaints from neighbors. Both are people who are full of ego and do not admit their fault. They continue to blame each other and fall to the point where they fall. My father-in-law apologized to me again. I couldn't realize the true nature of my wife and Neil, and I hurt you. I'm also responsible for Neil's turn into such a terrible adult, and I'm really sorry for what I did. My father-in-law bowed deeply and apologized sincerely. Hold your head up. It's not your fault. At the beginning of our marriage, Neil and my mother-in-law were kind. I had a lot of fun spending time with him. I didn't think they were like that. I didn't even notice it. I said these, recalling when I was married. Neil and I were happy together without a doubt at one point. My mother-in-law was kind to me too. But now I know that was them wearing masks. And I also have some regrets. When I quit my job right after I got married, I think I should have talked to you and mother-in-law. At that time, I wanted to support Neil, who was busy with work, so I chose to become a housewife. Neil didn't say anything when I talked to him about it, but I'm sure my mother-in-law was against it. Maybe she thought that a housewife was not suitable for Neil. Maybe that's why I did that. If I had talked to my mother-in-law about quitting my job, it might have been a little different. That's not true, Lyra. He did something he shouldn't have done for any reason. It's not acceptable to divorce my son and marry someone else. It's their fault. Forget about them. You're still young. I want you to live a new life and be happy. Thank you. Hearing my father-in-law's kind words, the tears I had been holding back overflowed. This past year has been full of hardships, but his words saved me. I was grateful to have him in my life when I thought my married life was full of enemies. I'm determined to start a new life to thank him, who has been by my side all the way till the end.